Welcome, my name is Robbie. I am the author of Fire Me, I Beg You, and you can find that on firemeibegyou.com. In this video today, I'm going to talk about quitting. Quitting the right way. I'm going to give you step by step on how to quit the right way. I know a little bit about quitting. As I mentioned before, I wrote a book called Fire Me, I Beg You. I know the feeling of misery and the feeling of frustration when you're in a job that you don't like. And when you are ready to quit, you want to quit in a good way. And in this video, I'm going to tell you how to do that. Before I dive into the tips, I think it's important to know, why is it important to quit the right way? And as you know, the world is a very small place. I've had so many different occasions where I desperately wanted to tell my boss off, and I desperately wanted to tell the company what they were doing wrong, and I wanted to go out on a big bang. And I'm going to talk you off the ledge of why you shouldn't do that. The biggest reason to leave on good terms is because the world is small and your career relationships are small. It could come back to bite you. Or if you leave on great terms, it could come back to help you. I've had several occasions where I didn't have a great boss and I didn't have a great relationship, but I quit in a very good way. And a few years later, they came back as clients of mine. And if I left by telling them off, which is honestly is what I wanted to do in the first place, this would have never happened. I would have never made that income from that great relationship that happened years after. So even if you have bad relationships, the way you quit can affect your relationship and even the money you make in the future. So it is in your best interest to quit in the right way. So you've decided that you want to quit. Now what? The first thing to think about when quitting is what happens if you don't like your next job and you want to come back. I know that seems far-fetched, but I've quit jobs, did something else, and decided, wow, this new job really isn't for me. And I came back at my old job at a different position. But I was able to do that because I maintained that great relationship. So the reason I mention that is that when you quit, you need to figure out obviously your exit plan, but just in case something happens, how could you come back into the company? So the first thing to understand is the first person you tell should be the person that has the most authority to get you back into the company. So let's just say that you quit your job, you left, and 2 years later you go, man, this really isn't it. Who is that person you're going to call to say, hey, John, I made a mistake. Do you think I can come back into the company? Who is that person that has the most authority? And that may or may not be your manager. It might be your manager's manager. But that's where you have to be a little careful. The first person you tell, even confidentially, that you're quitting, they should feel special, that they know first, that person who has the most authority. So sometimes if you tell someone that you quit, it might be like a lower level manager. And if that person doesn't have authority for you to come back, then maybe they should be the second or third person that you tell. So think a little bit, think 2 years, 3 years ahead of time, just in case something happens. You want to maintain a relationship, especially with the person that has the authority to get you back into the company, just in case something happens. Step 2, when you tell somebody that you're quitting, whether it's your manager or that executive that you're quitting, do not do it over email. Nobody should be shocked over email, period. I don't care how much you hate your job or how much you love it. So do it in person or over the phone, never over email, at least initially. So we have that conversation with the person, and now he's saying, no, well, now what? So the way that I do is I keep it really short. When I have the meeting and we're face to face, I say something like this: hey, John, it's been a pleasure working with this company. I've learned so much from you. I'm sorry to say I'm actually putting in my notice. I'm leaving in 2 weeks from now, but I just wanted to make sure that I told you first. I haven't told anyone else. And thank you so much for everything, but I'm leaving in 2 weeks from now. That's really all that you have to say. You have to be positive along the way. Make sure you are extremely positive. Even if you hate that person to their core, you cannot say, I hate you, I'm quitting. I mean, of course, you could say whatever you want, but again, if you have to look in the future, you have to build great relationships. They might ask why. Why are you leaving? And this is where it gets a little tricky, is I'm all about telling the truth, but you have to be very careful on saying why. Because the real answer is, I hate you, I don't get paid enough, and that's why I'm leaving. But unfortunately, that is not the right setting to say that. And the reason I give is, listen, I have another opportunity. It's been a pleasure working here. I want to try something different. I think that's a good approach. If you're working for another company, or even if you're becoming an entrepreneur, just say, hey, I'm trying something different and I need a different environment. I will remember everything that you've done for me and this company. I'm really appreciative, and I want to make sure I also give you a 2 weeks notice. So when it comes to quitting and leaving on a good note, here's what I do is I tell 1 or 2 people max. I especially do not tell my coworkers that I'm leaving or thinking about leaving. You do not want someone higher up to find out through the wrong channels, because that can rub somebody the wrong way. You have to play office politics from the day you get there to the day you leave, and unfortunately that's the way it is. You have to give the people respect up the chain. I want to give them the ability to control the communication, because if you're quitting, that might send a wrong tone to the group, and maybe they don't want that tone to be there. Let them control the communication. You should not be talking to anyone else about quitting until the official communication is out. There should be 1 or 2 people maximum that knows that you're quitting, and those are the people that you've told directly. I know how hard it is to not gloat and to not brag when you're leaving, because it feels so good to leave a company. It almost feels like you're better than the company, but try your hardest to not act that way, or honestly, you have to hide your smiling a little bit, because the last few days are usually the happiest points of your life and your career, because you're ready to do something else. So try to keep that inside. Also, constructive criticism. Constructive criticism, by the mere definition, is supposed to be positive criticism. The moment you tell someone that you're quitting, and the moment you give your notice, you are no longer, in my opinion, allowed to give constructive criticism. You should not try to be the hero on your way out. If you're looking to fix a company, then do it while you are there. Don't say I'm quitting and say, oh, by the way, I would fix these 5 things, because honestly, that's going to piss somebody off. So even if you are trying to better the company during an exit interview, you shouldn't be telling them everything, because it will make you look bad. There is no benefit for you in an exit interview. If you're more interested to learn about this exit interview process and what to say, I have another video about exit interviewing. I think it's really interesting for you to watch. When it comes to giving notice, some employers will say, listen, today's your last day, but you have to give them the benefit of the doubt of giving a 2 weeks notice and whatever that is. But I think you need to, a minimum 2 weeks notice, sometimes 3 weeks notice. Anything more than 3 weeks notice is bad in my opinion, unless you're an executive and you need to handle the communication differently. Give them the benefit of the doubt, because once you quit, once you tell people you're quit, you're essentially an outsider to the company. And the longer you're there, the more awkward it becomes. And so you don't want to give like a 2 months notice, because then they're not going to give you any work. And because they know you're not going to be able to own that work in the future, and it becomes increasingly frustrating for everyone else. And so the whole idea is to just give them enough notice to leave. This 2 weeks notice hasn't changed. 3 weeks if you're extra nice, but 2 weeks most of the time does the job. And lastly, the biggest part about quitting is sending that resignation letter. And I have a lot of things to say about a resignation letter. Check out my resignation letter video on YouTube. I give you some really great examples of how to write a great resignation letter. And that's really, really, really important to leave on a great note. Again, my name is Robbie. I am the author of Fire Me, I Beg You. Have a great day.